bibliography, you cited resources, you wrote, you spent hours revising and trying to decipher the indecipherable comments that your teachers left on the document. And then you edit, publish, submit, in the end, and then take the essay that you wrote and transform it into a speech. And tonight, your speeches are the exemplar that we want to recognize and appreciate and share. And just like that bell tower rings and reverberates and chimes for those near and those far in this community, tonight you will be reverberating, dinging, donging, chiming for those of us here who are near and those of us who are on the live stream. Noam Chomsky said that it is the job of the intellectual to speak truth, and tonight you will be speaking your truth. It's a bold and courageous act, and for that I think we should all be Mr. Allen, in celebration of the 150th year of the Manson, at least, we don't quite know how old she is going to tell you a little bit about the history, and then we'll get started with our speakers.
So this actually comes directly from the foreword of the Manson Essay Handbook, and actually all of you, at least all of you that are in the college prep level, will remember way back when we started this adventure in October that this was something that I read to all of you, and hopefully you remember that, or maybe you remember that, or maybe you completely blocked it out of your memory. But anyways, the foreword, and this is not the entirety, but a portion of the foreword that I'm going to read goes like this. The contest, in one form or another, was a part of MCI at least as early as 1871. Until 1875, it was open to all students. But in 1875, it became a contest for the junior class. It was originally held the week of graduation. For a period of time, the girls received a prize for an oration, and the boys for an original paper. In 1875, a prize was provided by Dr. Howe. Dr. John C. Manson later left a sum of money as a prize for the essay and oration, quote, for essays to be written by members of the junior class, with the best of them to be spoken in public. End quote. Quote is from Bud Lewis, who's a former English department head. John W. Manson later added additional money to fund the prize. In the 1920s, juniors were sequestered in the one-room library for a single day to write the Manson essay. Now, this doesn't refer to prize money. There is no longer, just to be clear, there is no longer prize money for the Manson essay night. However, it did originally start as a prize speaking page. We still have had a vibrant prize speaking program here at MCI, and this Fitz is looking to provide some of that coming up. So maybe this will inspire you, both who are public speakers or if you're watching it at home on our live stream, to want to join the prize speaking with this Fitz. All right, you can come here to hear Mr. Vise and I speak tonight. So let's get right to our speakers. We have 10 speakers tonight, and as the foreword said, it used to be that the oration, the speech part, was for ladies, and the written paper was for the boys, which is kind of fitting tonight that we have Hector and 9 ladies. So and it fits with the tradition of the Manson essay. So Hector is going to lead us off at our random order. And Hector is going to speak to you tonight about how jazz continues to be relevant today.
How's my volume? Good? All right. Ever since I came to MCI, I've been fascinated with jazz. But the more I became involved in it, the more I realized that other people simply were not. So society for everyone. Now, the word jazz comes up a whole host of images. It's a style of music, a type of dance, a chances of verb, and even basketball. But of all these things that jazz is, it simply can't be classified as dead. While it could be said that jazz is no longer in its prime, jazz still permeates life today through its history, its musical influences, and its psychological effects. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, New Orleans was a thriving center for entertainment, including dance, festivals, theater, and most importantly, music. This was largely because of the ethnic diversity of the city, with many Creoles, African Americans, Germans, French, and English inhabiting the city. This naturally facilitated the intermingling of their numerous cultures and traditions. In the words of Jack Stewart, who holds a doctorate of music history, New Orleans' unusual history, its unique outlook on life, its rich ethnic and cultural makeup, and the resulting local intersection, set the stage for the development and evolution of many distinctive traditions. With these factors taken into consideration, it's no coincidence that jazz is one of these traditions. As the sound of New Orleans jazz became increasingly popular, musicians from New Orleans were being requested to play in major cities all over the nation. The general public had never heard music like this before, and it was a massive success, earning millions of dollars and starting a buzz about the genre. There was a burgeoning appetite for jazz in Chicago, so many of the New Orleans musicians, such as cornet player Joe Oliver, clarinet Sidney Bechet, and even future legend Louis Armstrong went there to help found jazz. These musicians were persistent in creating their name in jazz world, and this mindset would help inspire many new subgenres and artistic styles. The initial style of jazz was not Dixieland jazz, a reference to the original Dixieland jazz band. The most notable characteristic of this style is collective improvisation, the practice of multiple instruments creating a melody line all at the same time. This was the most popular form of jazz until it was overtaken in the 1930s by swing. Swing featured individual improvisation, a shift from the inspiration of jazz recordings. The music was also incredibly commercial due to its strong, single melody and its relative simplicity when compared to the previous inspiration of jazz, which helped draw a large audience of jazz musicians all over the country. But was then ultimately reincarnated into many different styles, such as heavy vocal, bebop, fusion, cool, avant-garde, smooth, and finally also known as wild jazz. Now, jazz players were not only influential to their own genre of music, pushing it to change and evolve with times, but they were also vital in shaping the societies that were affected by it in the 19th century. African American musicians were undoubtedly the pioneers of jazz. They were the first to play and the first audience at hand. But early to the publication of jazz, white musicians started picking this up. Now, there was certainly still a racial border that existed in the era of jazz between the white population and the African Americans. But when they were playing jazz together, it was essentially removed. In the words of Phil Zola of the Old College, discrimination still existed, but in the jazz community, musicians were somehow considered as equals. Black jazz musicians experienced increased social mobility as the ability to find a voice for their music became much more attainable. All of a sudden, African Americans were gained opportunities which had previously been reserved for just the white population. Even if this wasn't only in the field of jazz, this was still a major step forward for the movement, and is in a similar vein to the controversial and was critical to impact the African American citizens of that time in a way that they could not previously experience. Now, believe it or not, freestyle rap actually has striking similarities to jazz improvisation. The creative spirit of the performer is often given to finding new scores or ideas, so the music produced is very true to the artist. The lyrics and rhythmic lines of the creative lyric freestyle rap come from a very similar place as jazz synthesizer scores. A study by Alan Rowe shows that both jazz and rap artists were less aware of the goings on around while they perform, but the air of their brain field action and spontaneity is highly active in both. Due to the similar nature to vocal and music, it's highly likely that this style of rap is actually derived from jazz improvisation. And even though there are many freestyle rappers who are not familiar with jazz, this style of music would simply not exist in the world of jazz music. Now, one is not required to be a jazz aficionado like myself to have an appreciation of jazz, as nearly every type of music played on the radio has been influenced by jazz or its performing artists. But this is not the only thing that jazz gives to the casual listener. Jazz is unrivaled in creating a relaxing atmosphere, and in the words of Ravel, is frequently used in movies and upscale business establishments, in museums and galleries, and in commercials promoting upscale products. Jazz is a common choice of study people were music, and the reason for this is not coincidental. In the same way that dressing in formal attire and healthy productivity in work setting, jazz has shown to have numerous psychological benefits that affect the brain in multiple ways. Dr. Booth, a doctor of physiology, claims that listening to jazz music helps relieve stress, which in turn aids in memory retention and concentration. Music has a direct effect on our organs, which is beneficial for stress, creating a calm state of mind, and even alleviating symptoms of depression. Jazz has also been shown to activate theta brain waves, the integral signal of our brain that promotes creativity, according to the New York Outlook. Now, these benefits can only be reached by simply listening to jazz. The effects of playing and understanding jazz go much deeper. Specifically, the Broca's area, the Wernicke area, the cerebellum, and the corpus callosum are targeted by playing jazz, which aid in speech production, comprehension of language, coordination and muscle memory, and the communication between the logical side of the brain and the intuitive side of the brain. The cerebellum is incredibly important for jazz musicians, as it controls coordination and muscle memory. Musicians often have extremely well-developed cerebellum, allowing them to execute faster than usual without inspiration. The case of Pat Martino is an outstanding example of how jazz is muscle memory. Martino was a legendary sound guitarist from South Philadelphia who was diagnosed with a malformation in the section of the brain. This caused memory lapses, debilitating headaches, and even produced occasional seizures. So in 1980, the jazz guitarist underwent brain surgery to remove the problem. A large amount of left temporal locus removed, part of the brain that corresponds to auditory memory, speech comprehension, and language. And the surgeons thought that Martino would lose his memory and communication skills forever. As it turns out, the surgeon was right. After the surgery, Martino went home to live with his parents. He had no recollection of who he was, where he was, or who his parents were. Martino only retained the basic vocabulary, struggling to remember more obscure words, name his family or friends, or live his life before surgery. In an effort to help revitalize some of the guitarist's memories, Martino's father began playing with his son's old jazz records. And incredibly, Martino began to recognize his old guitar. As he picked up an instrument, his father was astounded to see Martino playing his guitar with the same mastery as he did before his surgery, but without being able to remember his father's name. 7 years later, Martino would release his next album, crisply called The Return, and continued playing and performing live until 2018, with some musicians noting that his playing became even more creative and inspiring. In the words of Pete Gallagher, Martino's story is about music and how it helped shape his brain in ways that revived his life. It was only because of Martino's extensive musical practice and range that he was able to carry on his passion and lead a normal life after surgery. For the numerous benefits of listening to and understanding jazz techniques, it is vital that jazz techniques is prioritized in schools for all ages. The cognitive enhancing abilities of jazz can be extremely beneficial for young people with brain development, especially children with neurological disorders, Down syndrome, or autism. As the children mature, learning about the historical context of jazz and its relevance to the African American population would help create more well-rounded and informed scholars and some may call jazz a relative class, a relative genre, or a dead practice. It's true that the major era of jazz has come and gone, but jazz is still just as prevalent in today's world as it was in the jazz era. Jazz will never die out because it's constantly being pushed and reshaped by the artists and the influences of jazz to recognize the against the While the audience for jazz has dwindled as the years have gone by, jazz is a mood setter, a source of inspiration, a neurological aid, and a group of African American drivers more than that. And if you can keep with the person who runs around the modern world, jazz is ubiquitous.
Perfect, judges. I can do this. Give you some time. Very thorough. I told I need them.
next speaker is Greta Bloomer, here to talk about blue, pink, or red, a case for gender-neutral parenting. here, Yaron Choi, will talk about the counterattack of the plastic bag ban.
What do you think of plastic bags? The images of trash bags, grocery shopping bags, maybe animals eat with plastic bags in their stomach, and landfill overflowing with plastic bags will become realized. The problems of plastic bags are clearly threatening the planet, and it is well acknowledged. As a result, the support for the plastic bag ban is prevailing, and the area surrounding the ban is increasing dramatically. In 2018, 127 countries have already started the ban, according to the United Nations Environmental Program. However, along with its increasing interest for the ban, the true effectiveness of the plastic bag ban has not been deeply evaluated. It is the time to realize the backside of the ban, not only being trapped in the limited perspective, perceiving that the ban is only a advantageous. The plastic bag ban is inefficient to implement. Using other bags instead of plastic bags brings more damage to nature, and the plastic industry and local society will face economic problems. First, plastic bags inflict the least negative environmental impacts among any other bags. Plastic bags have characteristics: lightness, strength, and durability. These make them enable them to use the least amount of fossil fuels to produce and transport them, and have higher possibility of use for other purposes like trash. According to a study from Boston Consulting and Associates Ltd, to produce 1,000 plastic bags, the total of 10 kilograms of fossil fuels, including natural gas, oil, and coal, was needed. While the same number of paper bags used 23.2 kilograms, and compostable plastic bag used 27.6 kilograms. Consequently, plastic bags emit the least amount of carbon dioxide, which is related to their use of using fossil fuels. Consequently, therefore, empanadas must be used for much time than plastic bags to provide environmental benefits to use them instead of plastic bags. While the plastic bag is suggested to be reused only one time, the paper bag is should be reused at least 43 times. An organic cotton bag should be reused at least 20,000 times. These numbers are remarkable as it shows the superiority of the plastic bags. It takes over 1 month for paper bags and over 55 years for organic cotton bag to follow this suggestion. As a result, the advantageous factors of plastic bags make the ban inefficient to execute, providing no benefits for regulating plastic bags. Secondly, the plastic bag ban creates negative impact for the plastic industry and workers. As the ban directly limits the use of plastic bags, the income of plastic industry decreases, and people consequently lose their jobs as a result of the ban. The jobless problems become notable, especially because lots of indirect jobs around the manufacturing of plastic bag volume chain would be influenced additionally. In Kenya, Kenya Manufacturers Association was estimated that 100,000 workers will lose their job with a single ban in 2017. And in Los Angeles County, more than 30,000 workers were predicted to be affected by the ban, according to a report from National Center for Policy Analysis. The area, Los Angeles County, actually experienced an average of 10.4% drop in retail employment, while the area that did not start the ban showed 2.4% growth in retail employment. Especially these days, the damage is expected to be even larger, as the jobs and ranges of fields involved in plastic bags have expanded with increased use of plastic bags. Issues do not only occur within the plastic industry, but also local society. Because of the ban, the economic laws of local society are created. The problems are initially generated by buying alternative bags. As the prices of alternative bags are more expensive than plastic bags, retailers first experience the economic loss by spending more money than they did for plastic bags. As a result, local markets take on unexpected expenses, and they also raise the price of bags to cope with this. It further drives down the sales of local markets due to increased prices. According to a report from National Center for Policy Analysis, the survey found that 48% of local markets in Los Angeles County experienced a loss of money by buying reusable bags instead of plastic bags. And in order to resolve additional expenses, 36% of them replied that they have increased prices of bags. The sales of local stores also decreases as the ban of the plastic bags limits the opportunity of customers to choose the type of bag to use in the store. As this also increases the economic strain for customers, people prefer to go to another store in the area that do not include the ban. Plastic bag ban is inefficient as the ban makes people vulnerable for these problems, which people would not be able to control them. Lastly, the effectiveness of the plastic bag ban increases by the changing customers' pattern, and it creates unintended effects in society. The phenomenon called leakage occurs, which means the situation that the partial regulation of a product results in increased consumption of unregulated goods. In the case of plastic bag ban, the sales of trash bags and paper bags are increased. It eventually cancels out the benefit of the plastic bag ban, and it further causes more serious environmental pollution. In the research from Rebecca and C. Taylor, the assistant professor of schools of economics at the University of Sydney, the phenomenon was clearly illustrated in 139 cities, including California, and other countries that started the pandemic. The number of used plastic bags have been distinctly decreased, as 40 million pounds fewer plastic bags have been used in a year. However, the sales of trash bags increased instead at the same time, as general role of plastic bags being reused as trash bags could not be carried out anymore. Almost 12 million pounds of trash bags were bought in that year, and it decreased the benefit of the ban by 29%. Not only big plastic trash bags, but also paper bags were bought more than before the regulation by 80 million pounds. With increased use of alternatives like trash bags or paper bags, the more environmental pollution would arise because of the much greenhouse gas emission by the manufacturing process. It is true that using plastic bags generates the problems of ecosystem and environmental pollution, and therefore the attempt to protect the planet from further contamination should be continued. However, implementing the plastic bag ban for this goal should be reconsidered. The advantages of plastic bags cannot be ignored, and the impact regarding the plastic industry and local society certainly offers great support to people. The overall consequences of the plastic bag ban raise questions about its effectiveness, and the further considerations to emphasize the benefit and reduce their side effects is necessary. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Abby Keenan, who will talk to you about social media's impact on body image.
I know.
When we think of the ideal body image, most of us will think of a thin, tall woman with wider hips, or a man with visible muscle mass and low body fat. This is much different from what the ancient Romans thought, as they preferred a thin, toned physique, or other historic cultures viewed excess body fat as a sign of wealth and a sign of power. While these ideals may seem insignificant as they have been existent for all of history, they are much more significant now, especially with the use of social media being more prominent now than ever before. The advent of social media and its overwhelming presence in American society has produced grave and long-lasting medical and psychological disorders among teenagers and young adults. I want you to imagine for a moment that you are interviewing two young men. The first walks in, freshly showered, well-groomed, wearing an ironed button-up shirt with a new black tie that matches his new dress pants and freshly cleaned shoes. He's tall, muscular, and overall well put together. A second oversized man comes in, wearing baggy jeans and a graphic t-shirt and a hat that hides his uncombed hair. Both have the same qualifications. However, for the majority of us, the clear choice will be the first clean and toned man. These choices have become more developed over time, especially with the use of social media, which frequently depicts the better man as the one who's dressed nicely and in great physical shape. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok, these are the most common and popular media platforms as of today, where people are able to post pictures, videos, make comments on others' posts, and so much more. As these platforms have become more sophisticated and advanced, influencers have begun sharing news with people all over the media platforms. The more these views are shared, the more people agree, especially as they want to fit in with society's common beliefs. So, when the same concept occurred with how a person's body should appear, more people began agreeing that everybody should look a certain way, eventually leading to the society-wide basis of appropriate body image. A lot of these platforms, unfortunately, have now become more about criticism rather than entertainment, where people are given the idea that they should only feel comfortable posting something that fits into the ideal body type, or they should expect to face harsh critique. Along with the content that people share on the media, numerous magazines, commercials, and ads utilize models and actors that are slim and toned, in turn influencing society's definition of attractive. In fact, the National Eating Disorders Association reports that 1 in every 3.8 television commercials conveys an attractiveness message, telling viewers what should be considered attractive. These commercials, much like other media sources, demonstrate the idea that being attractive only occurs when a person is thin, toned, and well-maintained. When people view these messages repeatedly, the idea of an ideal body image becomes ingrained in their mind, oftentimes causing them to seek ways, often in an unhealthy manner, to alter their own appearance in order to fit in and to find acceptance. While society may expect everyone to appear the same, it is not physically possible. Due to this, there are millions of people who frequently feel ashamed by their appearance, simply because it is not what others around them find desirable. This idea is even strongly prevalent among children, who are obviously unable to control their appearance due to individual growth factors. In fact, a study performed by the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute found that approximately 40% of 9 and 10-year-old girls are already attempting to lose weight, which is quite unfortunate as we oftentimes think of this age group as finally being able to ride a bike, or perhaps receiving their first tablet for a birthday. Along with this, over 70% of girls between the ages of 15 and 17 avoid daily activities such as attending school when they feel badly about their appearance. And approximately 75% of girls who suffer from these self-esteem issues engage in negative activities such as cutting, bullying, smoking, drinking, disordered eating, and so much more. These inabilities to achieve society's standard of beauty most frequently cause people to feel even worse about themselves, oftentimes leading to the development of serious mental health illnesses, the most common of these being anxiety and depression. These disorders are particularly common among women and young girls, though they are part of everyone's life in some way or another, especially as the occasional anxiety is common among the majority of adults. However, social media has caused many people to have much more severe cases of these disorders, affecting how they feel, think, and act on an everyday basis. The feelings created by both anxiety and depression can isolate a person from the rest of society, causing them to feel as though they may never fit in because their body looks different than society's beauty ideals. These disorders may in turn spark additional mental health problems, including body dysmorphia, which is a mental health disorder in which you can't stop thinking about one or more perceived defects or flaws in your appearance. And eating disorders such as anorexia, which is an eating disorder characterized by abnormally low body weight with an intense fear of gaining weight. As the media has shaped the idea of the standards of beauty, the disorder has become very prevalent among young adults who utilize social media sources often. Frequently seeing photos and videos of others who fit into society's standards may cause a person to begin seeing everything in themselves that they wish they could change, in turn causing them to fall into body dysmorphic disorder. The feelings are also worsened by anxiety and depression, as the feelings of loneliness and sadness cause a person to hyper-focus on their flaws. These conditions may also cause a person to develop an eating disorder, which can be very harmful to their overall health, leading to other chronic illnesses, suicidal thoughts or tendencies, and even death. Frequently inspired by this social media standard of beauty, women are more likely to attempt to lose weight by following diets that are not particularly healthy, explaining why they are more apt to develop anorexia than men are. But while girls are pressured to be slim, men are also subject to the pressure of social media standards, where true masculinity is considered to consist of a lean and muscular body type. In order to fit these perceived ideals, men attempt to bulk up or to consume more protein and fats while strength training, rather than going on fad diets like their female counterparts. But this bulking can, and frequently has, been taken too far and has led to an obsession with diets, workout regimes, supplements, and even steroid usage. This occurrence is especially significant as the fitness industry is worth billions of dollars, meaning that companies are more focused on their own profit rather than a person's overall health. This leads directly to poor, unhealthy standards being portrayed in advertisements, television, and more. These influences can and have quickly led to eating disorders such as bulimia and binge eating disorder. Yet, knowing these consequences, companies and other social media networks continue to put more and more pressure on the ideal body image. As this has become the standard worldwide, it is no wonder why an estimated 15 to 43% of males are unhappy with their bodies and continue to try and change themselves daily in order to fit into society's standards. Throughout a person's life, the pressure of being thin comes from all directions, from billboards to magazines to Instagram and other social media platforms. The media is flooded with the message that being thin should be a woman's ultimate goal and that being muscular should be a man's. The media presents unrealistic ideals that super slim women and muscle-bound men are the ideal way to look, and if they appear differently from this, they will be less loved, less accepted, and less successful in life. This way of thinking creates the belief that people's self-worth is based solely on their appearance. That is why it is more important now than ever to instill that beauty is much more than skin deep, and to educate people that looking beyond the media's point of view is exceptionally important. With further education on the media's impact on body image, along with the knowledge of proper fitness and nutrition, the chances of a person developing body dysmorphia eating disorders, and mental health illnesses could decrease drastically. Along with this, eliminating the false influence of social media altogether could remove the concept of body image from society, allowing people to live their lives without the fear of being judged on their appearance. So, it is essential that society gradually removes itself from social media enough to see the impact it's made on every single person, in turn causing them to recognize that the ideal body image in which the media has created is a completely false reality. A step back will also allow the media industry to make a significant change where women can be portrayed as larger figures and where men don't have to go to the gym daily. So, while the media has created long-lasting effects on millions of people, a universal retreat from the media's influences can allow for great change, where everyone can live an overall better life. Thank you.
Next, we have Samantha Martin talking about the best ways to prevent future outbreaks.
Throughout history, humankind has seen many viruses and has undergone multiple pandemics. With science and technology advancing, we can problem solve and create cures much better than we have in the past. When thinking about problem solving and finding these cures, scientists have to come up with how the virus spreads, who can spread it, and more. Looking back at the 1980 influenza virus and the most recent coronavirus, we can see that wearing masks and social distancing, starting early, and limiting travel are the best ways and most effective protocols to implement with any future virus or pandemic. When coming up with the most effective protocols, we can't simply look at just one pandemic or virus. We must look at multiple, or in this case, two. Germs are a part of your everyday life. They're a part of you, and they can be good or they can be bad. They can spread in two different ways. They can be an indirect or a direct contact. A direct contact would be if you're having a conversation with someone and they cough or they sneeze and those airborne particles or surrounding you and you contracted the virus in that manner. An indirect contact would be, say, someone who has the virus touches the door handle and then you touch the door handle and you touch your face and you contract the virus that way. That would be an indirect form of contact. One way to eliminate direct contact would be if you wear a mask and social distance. Wearing a mask is an effective way to prevent and to decrease the rate at which a virus spreads because it catches the airborne particles before it can reach the other person. And if you have a mask on yourself, it could decrease the risk of you inhaling the virus. There are some masks, however, that won't work as well as medical or mouthwash. Shields still allow the particles to come in the air and surround the other person, which could eventually infect them. It is much easier today to social distance and to wear masks and social distance. Social distancing especially is much easier because instead of having a meeting in person with everybody, you could do it over a Zoom call or a Google Meet. There have an effective meeting or gathering without actually having to be in person and infecting other people. Cheng-Wang Tang from Duke Global Health Institute has said that living through the emergence and control of deadly pathogens such as years and years has strengthened the cultural norm around wearing masks and social distancing in many Asian countries. This is great to look at because we can see that not only is the U.S. using masks and social distancing, but so are many other countries. It's a well-known fact that masks help decrease any viral virus. It was one of the go-to methods in the 1918 influenza as well. When they found out that the flu was going around and had traveled to the U.S., they implemented masks and social distancing. Another great thing we can take from this quote is that it was a cultural norm in many Asian countries to wear masks and social distance. This made it easier for them to start early. They implemented all the protocols when they figured out there was a new virus, and it ended up flattening the curve much faster than it did with the United States, who waited, let's say, 3 months after the first coronavirus case was found. When we talk about flattening the curve, we are looking at the number of people getting sick over a period of time. When there's a new virus, we are often to see a spike in numbers and then a decrease and a flattened rate. You want people to get sick over a long period of time instead of a small period of time, because then you're overflooding the hospitals and they're not able to help as many people as if they got sick over a period of 6 months instead of 3. Another great way to prevent any virus would be to limit the travel. In the 1918 pandemic, there was a war going on. People were going from country to country and bringing up new virus everywhere. It ended up putting a lot of people at risk. With the new coronavirus, we closed borders. We closed country borders, state borders, and it ended up keeping the virus in a certain spot and position, so it limited the spread of it going somewhere else and risking others' lives. As we look at all of these methods, we can tell that masks and social distancing, starting early and limiting travel are some of the best and most effective ways to slow any virus. It will create a faster and more effective future for any future virus and future pandemic. Thank you.
Next, Ava McCannell will talk about transgender discrimination.
Can you hear me? Okay. For adults over the age of 18, the average rate for suicide attempts is 0.5%. 43% of transgender individuals attempt suicide in their lifetime. Transgender people are individuals who feel like or identify as a gender other than their birth gender. Along with socially caused mental illnesses, transgender individuals face personal challenges with their gender and their body, leading to both body dysmorphia disorder and gender dysphoria. According to WebMD, about 78% of all transgender students meet the criteria for one or more mental health issues, including anxiety, depression, and eating disorders. This idea leads to the realization that life as a transgender individual is more difficult compared to cisgender individuals, someone who identifies as the same gender as when they were born. Transgender people face discrimination in their everyday lives in many different ways. Some examples of these incidents include obtaining jobs and trying to receive health care. These areas of discrimination can negatively impact the transgender community's mental health. Due to an excessive amount of discrimination put onto transgender individuals by society's stereotypes, more than half of all individuals struggle with their mental health. Transgender people typically feel trapped as though they're in the wrong body. This feeling is a main component of transgender community's mental health challenges and leads to both body dysmorphic disorder and gender dysphoria. Emily Rosen states that the main component of body dysmorphic disorder in a person is the main component that they are not who they are, having displeasure, and being unable to accept oneself physically. Gender dysphoria is when there is a disparity between one's gender and their gender seen through societal constructs. For these two psychological conditions, there are some actions that can be taken to help treat or lessen the severity of both. Treatments can vary from small changes to more drastic changes. For both conditions, some small changes include change of appearance, change of preferred name, and change of preferred pronouns such as she, her, he, them, and they, them. More drastic changes include hormone replacement therapy and surgery. Hormone replacement therapy is when a person's naturally occurring hormone is slowly replaced by the opposing hormone, testosterone or estrogen. Surgery can remove or replace unwanted body parts, making that person feel more comfortable in their body. Both of these options have many benefits for these people, such as reducing stress and discomfort about their physical appearance and improving their quality of life. While going through these changes, one of the most important things for these people to have is a support system, such as family, friends, and medical professionals. Having loved ones around can be the most helpful thing for these people and can help improve that person's mental health. Being a transgender individual while living in a society that blindly follows uneducated accusations can be very challenging to handle. As a result of society's actions, transgender people can struggle more with mental illnesses than cisgender people. The two main mental illnesses that transgender individuals face are anxiety and depression. Researchers have proven that the discrimination experienced by the trans community can have a dramatic negative impact on their mental health. Depression is a mental illness that affects how an individual feels, thinks, and acts in a negative way and can significantly impact their life. Anyone can experience depression and it can be caused or triggered by anything. Depression is one of the most common mental illnesses among transgender individuals and can lead to self-harm, hatred, and an overall downfall of their quality of life. Depression can be caused or worsened by society because of social stigmas around the transgender community. Feeling displaced in both your internal and external environment can negatively impact a person's life. The second most common mental illness among the transgender community is anxiety. One website claims that being transgender can magnify normal teenage issues, including feeling misunderstood, feeling isolated from friends and family, and more. Some things that can help these individuals with their mental health is support, raise awareness, and education on the topic. Since more than half of all individuals who identify as transgender struggle with depression or anxiety, it is very important to raise awareness to outside people of the transgender community so they can provide support. This will help lessen the stigma around the community and lead to a safer environment for transgender individuals. Stereotypes are everywhere in society, and many untrue stereotypes are placed on the LGBTQ+ community, especially those who identify as transgender. Some of these common misconceptions are that transgender people are confused or mentally ill, and that's why they believe they're in the wrong body. Many people believe these stereotypes to be true because of one reason: ignorance. People who blindly follow these stereotypes are typically uneducated about the specific topic. This is something that can be fixed by our society to make transgender individuals feel more safe and respected about their body and their decisions with their body. Along with stereotypes, transgender individuals also struggle finding and obtaining jobs. Transgender individuals have expressed their difficulties in finding jobs based solely off of their gender identification. Job struggles for transgender individuals can vary from finding a job to facing harassment at their job sites and being fired from their job because of their gender identification. Martinez states that transgender people experience double the rate of unemployment compared to cisgender people. Healthcare should be accessible to everyone, and yet transgender individuals face many challenges that make this very, very difficult. finding jobs, they have a harder time achieving a steady income and have a harder time accessing medical insurance. Healthcare is something that should be accessible to everyone as a basic necessity. It is especially important for people who are transitioning to have access to healthcare because medicine and surgeries are sometimes necessary for their mental health. Without access to medical care, transgender individuals may suffer longer within their body, feeling uncomfortable and out of place. Due to an excessive amount of discrimination put onto the transgender community by society, more than half of all transgender individuals struggle with mental health issues. Transgender individuals may face challenges cisgender individuals do not, such as discrimination from their peers, discrimination at jobs, hospitals, and even from their own parents. These examples all show the challenges that transgender people face in their everyday lives and can lead to harm, risk, or harassment because of societal norms. To help with these struggles, schools and communities need to start educating people about the transgender community and what it is like for them. Only then will the transgender community start to face less discrimination from their outside peers, struggle less with their mental health, and feel more comfortable in their community.
Next, Jillian Michaud will talk about creativity versus school system.
All right, imagine this. Vincent Van Gogh never painted. He found a normal job as an accountant and he never picked up a paintbrush. All of his creativity and skill would have been lost. He would have lived a normal life, doing simple things, doing just what he needed to do to get by, just like many people now do. And I believe that is because schools teach young adults to set aside their passions and creative skills in order to succeed, leading to less inspiration and less driven individuals. Your passion, no matter what it is, will give you a desire to expand, a want to improve on yourself, a desire and a drive. It just generally improves you as an individual. And when you take your passion outside of that, you lose that desire, that inspiration, that passion. Which, I mean, that makes sense. Because if you can't spend your energy doing something that you like to do, why would you want to spend your energy doing something you don't want to do? Which explains why students blow off assignments and allow their grades to drop. Curriculums are made from the voices of many people. First, 50 states decide a general curriculum that should be made. Then, the president then creates a goal for all schools to achieve. The government is handed all 50 curriculums that the states created and create a very broad outline. That outline is then sent to all school boards where they decide lessons, books, all the fine-tuned things. Then it's handed to teachers where they are told to teach it to students. But if the students and the teachers are the ones that are handling this curriculum, shouldn't they also be the ones that are creating this curriculum? Another point to mention is these people who are making these curriculums and are handling them most aren't in a classroom every day and haven't been in a classroom for several years. Each subject has a specific lesson to teach students in every class. Although some of these lessons aren't found in classrooms. For instance, in math class, students are supposed to learn to reason quantitatively, to solve problems and provide means to understand the world. Another example is social studies. It's supposed to teach students not how to think. No, it's supposed to teach students not what to think, but how to think. Although I don't know about any of you, but I have never learned how to reason quantitatively in math class, nor have I been taught how to think. I've only been told what others have thought. Now, each person has their own intricate and personalized learning style. The 7 major learning styles are visual, oral, verbal, physical, logical, solitary, social. But classrooms can only teach in a certain amount of learning styles. So to expect students to understand and comprehend these lessons throughout these specific new learning styles is unrealistic. A study done by Cameron Holland, she uses an analogy of a favorite song. She says, when you first learn to listen to your favorite song, it's an episodic memory. The more you listen to your favorite song, the more episodic memory you gain. As you gain enough episodic memories, they become a semantic memory. After you've gained enough semantic memories, you've memorized your favorite song. Same thing goes with everything else you learn. And after that, you don't go back to your favorite song, or you don't revisit that thing you've learned, you'll forget it. And teachers often teach their lessons to become semantic memories and move on. And the chances of students ever going back to those lessons is unrealistic, to be honest. So instead of teaching these lessons to be semantic memories and moving on, we should instead be teaching students these semantic memories and how to use them in their futures, how to make it memorable and usable. A very successful school, High Tech High in San Diego, California, has branched into 5 high schools, 4 middle schools, and 3 elementary schools. High Tech High used project-based learning. Larry Rosenstock, the founder of High Tech High, states, "You're taking the methodology of tech, which is team-produced, group-performed, and experimental. You're adding the academics, which is literacy, numeracy, everything that students need to know, and you went the pedagogy of tech and academics." High Tech High has also combined core classes like art and biology, or humanities and math, and many more to accommodate for students' interests and learning styles. And this is proven to create more diverse and wonderful education and individuals. Another example is Larry Rosenstock. He founded ArtStart in 1991. His main goal was to nurture the hearts, voices, and minds of New York City at-risk youth. He wanted to do this through the creative process. He found high schools that were known for bad students and was able to teach a class. He started this by having them meet with record labels and watching award-winning films and meeting with timeless rappers. He focused on noticing their vision and teaching them how to create it. So anything they had passion for, to act on it and create something with it. And throughout the year, he noticed that these students were steadily increasing. Grades were going up, and they were becoming role models, and they were improving as individuals. Although the principal of the school put a stop to it, stating it wasn't art, it wasn't creativity, it was distraction, and it needed to stop. That did not stop Rosenberg and his students, however, because they simply went to coffee shops and restaurants after school to continue. And by the end of the year, he had made incredibly talented students with extremely high grades. They were out of trouble and overall role models. And most of them have continued on in their life to encourage others to do the same. Their creative genius is inside all of us. And school should be a place to grow creativity, not smother it. Education needs to be rethought in order to help students find their passions and to grow upon them. Schools should adopt methods that High Tech High and Rosenberg used to encourage young adults to avoid the simple, structured, just getting by lifestyle. Thank you.
Next, Gracie Moore will talk about diversification, the key to a successful athletic career.
Urban Meyer, a football coach at Notre Dame, once offered LeBron James a scholarship to play Division I football. Everyone questioned this decision and told him there was no way LeBron was going to play football. James moved on to become one of the most outstanding basketball players and still played football 2 years in high school. Athletes are faced with a numerous amount of challenging decisions and receive mixed information from parents, coaches, and teammates about whether they should specialize or play multiple sports. These mixed signals add unnecessary pressure. Specialization means an athlete is only focusing on one sport, striving to strengthen their skills in that individual sport, and not playing any other. When athletes specialize, they risk the chance of acquiring repetitive use injuries due to overworking specific muscles and joints. On the other hand, diversification means athletes are playing multiple sports. Diversification is extremely beneficial for student athletes, as it allows them to enhance their overall skill set, develop a variety of character traits, and increase the chances of college improvement. Diversification will minimize overuse injuries by enhancing an athlete's overall muscular strength. Participating in multiple sports throughout an athlete's high school career is more beneficial than specializing in an individual sport. There are 5 key areas that show how playing multiple sports is more beneficial. First, diversifying as an athlete allows them to become skillful in many areas. For example, Abby Wambach is considered the greatest cutter of a ball in women's soccer history, and she gives credit for this skill to when she played basketball as a child. Wambach stated, "Playing basketball had a significant impact on the way I played the game of soccer. I'm a taller player in soccer, and in basketball I was a power forward. I would go up and rebound the ball. So learning the timing of your jump, learning the trajectory of the ball coming off the rim, all those played a massive role of how I played the game of soccer," according to USA Today. Another supporter is Dabo Sweeney, football coach at Clemson University. He supports diversification in his players. "I just think that the cross-training, the different types of coaches, the different types of locker rooms, the different environments that you practice in, the different challenges you face, I think develops a much more well-rounded type of person," according to PCI. When an athlete uses each skill they learn in the various sports they play, this allows them to excel as an overall athlete. The second benefit of playing multiple sports is that it allows an athlete certain muscles to rest and recover from the strenuous work that comes with each sport they play. When athletes play a variety of sports, this allows their muscles to experience different movements, which can reduce the risk of an overuse injury. Justin Kunis, a sports medicine physician, explains, "If your team is concentrating on only one sport, they are at increased risk for injury. For muscles to grow, they need time to recover, and repeated use and abuse could possibly cause long-term harm. By playing multiple sports, especially ones that are different, teams can develop different muscle groups, which can lead to increased overall athleticism." The report also explained that athletes who participate in only one sport typically overuse a specific set of muscles, which can cause the athlete to become more susceptible to injury. When athletes play a variety of sports, it allows the athletes to recover quicker so they can push harder in each sport they play. Specializing can not only impact an athlete physically, but it can also impact them mentally. One of the key components of being an athlete is having the determination and motivation to succeed. On the other hand, when an athlete is overtraining and pushing themselves too vigorously, this can possibly cause burnout. Finding a balanced training schedule as an athlete is very beneficial. Daniel Blaney played high-level club soccer since 3rd grade, before quitting as a 17-year-old and decided to only play for his high school team his senior year. He immediately felt relief after quitting. "After playing hundreds or just thousands of soft games, I really needed a break," Blaney said. Burnout is definitely the word I would use. Eventually, soccer wasn't a game for Blaney anymore that he once enjoyed. It became more like a job. Giving athletes multiple opportunities in a variety of sports will allow them to develop important character traits that they can use throughout their life, and can also reduce the risk of burnout. Daniel Blaney is one of many athletes who lack communication between coach and athletes. Communication is a key component of being a successful athlete. ability to learn to play his desires athletically and help him advance in their athletic goals, states Kevin Sager. If an athlete's motivation and determination are not there, this hinders the athlete's ability to succeed. Whatever decision the athlete makes, having open communication between parents, coaches, and athletes will significantly affect the child's experience for the better. Another benefit of playing multiple sports is that college coaches are more likely to recruit athletes to participate in multiple sports. Multiple sport athletes have a more diverse skill set, which allows them to succeed when faced with different challenges. As I previously mentioned, LeBron James, according to Dr. Joe Don and Alicia George, authors of the Positive Coaching Alliance, 88% of Division I athletes at one U.S. university have participated in 2 to 3 sports with children. In addition, 97% of professional athletes believe being a multiple sport athlete is beneficial to their success. As previously mentioned, LeBron James is an example of an athlete who diversified his athletic career and still managed to become a very successful basketball player. LeBron is not the only athlete who became very successful in one sport. Tom Brady is another example of an individual famous for one sport. But when Tom Brady was in high school, he played basketball and baseball. He diversified his career, which most likely helped him achieve his athletic desires. College coaches are determined to seek out athletes who are insanely talented with a diverse skill set. In the end, choosing to participate in multiple sports is ultimately the athlete's decision. But given the information available on playing multiple sports versus specialization, choosing to play multiple sports before and during high school provides the most significant benefits to an athlete with the least amount of risk of acquiring or injury. Diversifying as an athlete enables their skill set to improve dramatically, which could significantly increase the chances of playing at collegiate level. It also allows athletes to adapt to different challenges that come in each sport. Parents, coaches, and teammates should encourage individuals to do what they enjoy, but also educate them about the benefits and importance of diversity among sports. Thank you.
And what we were just explaining to Elena is that at 8:30, the bell will ring, signifying the end of evening study. Also, we're instructing her what to do should she still be speaking when that bell. So if you hear a bell ring, don't panic. It's just the bell telling you that study hall is over for the evening. Next is Elena Rowe talking about laws and policies and gender stereotype reinforcement.
Dating back to 1986, a single man named Ortiz was a full-time employee, but also a primary caregiver of his sick mother. He requested the tax deduction provided by the government for the caregivers. But his request was denied because he was a single man. According to the tax deduction law, the law only applies to women, widower, and a husband whose wife is sick or institutionalized. Then why didn't the government include single men in the law? Why didn't the government consider that single men can also be the caregivers, like single women? It is because of the gender stereotypes. The tax deduction law was made based on the gender stereotypes, that women are caregivers while men are wage earners. Since then, more than 30 years have passed, but we still have gender stereotypes. As we all know, gender stereotypes harm both women and men. They inhibit women from showing their full potential in male-dominated areas, but also make it hard for women to get equal job opportunities or equal access to senior leaders as men. In case of men, due to the gender stereotypes that especially emphasize the toughness of men, they lose their self-esteem, but also hide their weaknesses and identities from others, which would result in feelings of insecurity and distress. These serious gender stereotypes problems have not been ignored in my society. For a few last decades, we have put forth our best efforts in hopes of breaking the gender stereotypes. The United States government has also contributed by enacting and ratifying the influential laws. Then, why do we have gender stereotypes in 2021? Why aren't they working? The reason is the policies and laws that are enacted and ratified in the United States. The United States tends to think that women are the victims of the gender stereotypes. So when they enact or ratify the act, they usually focus on the protection of women. However, enacting or ratifying the laws and policies that gives an exceptional attention to protection of women paradoxically intensifies the gender stereotypes. To break the gender stereotypes, the United States should no longer pass any laws or policies that gives an exceptional protection to women. Here are some examples of how laws that gives an exceptional focus on women paradoxically intensifies the gender stereotypes. When the government found out that if women are involved in peace and security processes, the resolution and compromise made in the discussion are long-lasting and much more effective. So Congress passed Women, Peace, Security Act of 2017. This law is to encourage the participation of women in all aspects of conflict prevention, management, and resolution. This law would also ensure the physical and economic safety of women and girls and protects their dignity. Some people say this act is necessary to counterpoint the generic male point of view that politics and conflict security discourse are men's area. This law would also help to break gender stereotype that men has, but also help women to enter the politics without being considered themselves as outsiders. It would also help to change the reality that women are underrepresented in the leadership. However, in my perspective, Women, Peace, Security Act of 2017 that supports and protects women in male-dominated areas paradoxically intensifies the gender stereotypes. The Women, Peace, Security Act of 2017 is specifically designed for women. This law suggests that while men can join politics without protection by laws, women need a protection of man-made laws that would ensure their safety and supports their participation in the politics. With this perception, who would think that women and men have the same social power and are in the same social position in the field of politics? Women who are protected by the laws will certainly be perceived as the weak, which means we can't break the gender stereotype that politics is men's area and women are the weak in the field of politics. Furthermore, when I look at this law in depth, Women, Peace, Security Act of 2017 undermines the gender relational approach by considering women only. The gender relational approach means not only considering the roles, inequalities, weaknesses, and strengths that women face, but also to look at the experience of those by men and LGBTQ. Any laws that provides protection of one type of people will inherently exclude all other classes. No matter how much one gender seems weaker in a particular area, the laws should have applied equally to all people. We can also find exceptional focus on women in the laws and policies that are to address the social issue, like domestic and sexual violence. Because violence against women has been the issue over the centuries, so many laws and policies were passed to stop this issue. For instance, under the Article 27 of the Geneva Convention, women shall be especially protected against attack on their honor, in particular against rape, enforced prostitution, and any forms of indecent assault. This policy considers the reality that the violence of women is much higher than the violence against men. However, this policy generalizes women as the victims and paradoxically undermines the gender equality by neglecting men's experience of sexual violence. In men's point of view, the policies and laws that give an exceptional focus on protection of women gives the impression that men are immune to sexual violence or that men are strong enough to fight with an attacker. This perception facilitates the sense of emasculation of men who experience sexual violence, thereby contributing to the mental health issues and increasing the underreported violence against men. When women are described as the victims of the violence, we can't break the gender stereotype that women are the weak end of the violence and the victims of the violence, and men are the perpetrators of the violence. The laws that are to protect women from the violence will strengthen this gender stereotype. So, what is the solution to stop reinforcing the gender stereotypes? The essential change is that all laws and policies must be inclusive and treat all people equally. The Violence Against Women Act is one of the great examples of inclusive law. It was originally enacted in 1994 and most recently reauthorized on March 8, 2021. It was enacted to address the dating violence, domestic violence, sexual violence, and stalking. It provides the federal services for the victims of the violence to help the recovery from this traumatic experience. The name of the law only contains women. However, this law serves all people. Even though the main goal of the law was to protect women from the violence, men and LGBTQ are not excluded from this law. What is of importance is that this law acknowledges that all people can be the possible victims of the violence. If this perception spreads more and more, we will be able to break the gender stereotype that women are the victims and the weak, and men are the strong and perpetrators. We can't break the gender stereotypes with the laws and policies that give an exceptional focus on women, such as the Violence Against Women Act. More and more inclusive laws should be enacted and ratified to counter the gender stereotypes and to achieve gender equality in the future. A small change in the laws and policies will lead this nation to a brighter, non-stereotyping future. Thank you.
Our final speaker this evening, Lillian Barrel, Just as Pretty, encouraging the use of native plants in landscaping.
I'm sure many of you have taken up gardening to relieve stress at one time or another. But have you thought about the stress put onto local ecosystems by your plant choices? Has any thought been put into which species are planted, other than whether it will grow and if it will look nice? What about the benefits they provide for the local insect populations? Are there benefits? Or are they just pretty wastes of resources? invasive in that region. They can force native species of all kinds into extinction. This disrupts necessary food chains, with effects rippling out into the wider world. If native plants are used in gardens, the benefits can include avoiding the risk of introducing plants that will decimate the native populations, and they can supplement what is already in the